All right, welcome back to the deep dive. You ever notice how, like, whenever you crack open a textbook or maybe you're scrolling through an article online, there's almost always a picture or a diagram? Makes you wonder, right? How much do these visuals actually help us learn?
It's a great question, and one that researchers have been digging into for decades.
So for this deep dive, we went deep into the research to figure out what makes some illustrations so incredibly effective. The kind that helps you actually understand and remember information.
And of course, we'll be looking at the other side of that coin, too. Some visuals, well, they don't really add much at all.
Exactly. And for our listeners, who are always looking for those smart ways to boost their learning, we think this deep dive will give you some real practical insights into how to use visuals effectively.
We've got a really rich collection of studies to draw on. A lot of it focuses on work from the 1990s and early 2000s, which builds on earlier research going back even further.
Yeah, our main source is a comprehensive overview that does a fantastic job of pulling together the key findings in this honestly fascinating area.
It's really a great resource.
So let's kick things off by going way back, like way, way back. Imagine the Chauvet Cave in France with those incredible 35,000-year-old paintings.
Oh, absolutely.
It kind of makes you wonder, right? Were those early humans using those images to tell stories? Like, were those the original visual aids?
It's certainly possible.
It really highlights how humans have been using pictures to communicate and probably to learn for a very, very long time.
No question about it.
I mean, think about children's storybooks. They rely on illustrations so heavily.
It's true. And we all intuitively understand that pictures in children's books, they help.
Right, they set the scene, bring the characters to life. But our focus today is a little more specific.
Absolutely.
We're really zeroing in on this idea of reading to learn. It's all about how we process and remember information from the text.
And that's distinct from learning to read, which is that initial stage where you're just figuring out the words and sounds.
Precisely.
So while pictures and storybooks are definitely doing a lot for a child's overall literacy,
Right.
we're going deeper into how visuals can help us, as more sophisticated readers, absorb complex information.
So it's about taking things to that next level of learning.
Precisely.
And if you think about how learning materials have evolved, it's pretty dramatic. Like, remember those old textbooks from, I don't know, it was just a few decades ago?
Oh, yeah.
They were just walls of text.
Yeah.
Dense,
It's
intimidating.
just a sea of words.
Now, even college textbooks, not to mention presentations and pretty much everything online, they're full of pictures and diagrams.
It's become the norm.
And apparently, there was a study that compared history textbooks from the 1960s to the 1980s.
I think I've seen that one.
And get this, the researchers described the increase in pictures as tremendous.
It was huge. And you know, what's really interesting is that this isn't just about making things look prettier or more appealing.
Right, it's not just aesthetics.
Exactly. Research actually suggests that when visuals are designed well and they're used in a strategic way, they genuinely improve our ability to learn from text.
So there's real science backing this up.
Absolutely.
So with this deep dive, our goal is to pull out those most important findings from this more recent research on visuals and learning.
We're going to equip you with the knowledge you need to understand how pictures can make that reading to learn process way more effective.
Yeah, we're building on a lot of the amazing groundwork laid by earlier researchers in this field.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, as they say.
So where do we even begin to understand how these pictures, how they work their magic, so to speak?
Well, I think a really helpful place to start is with a framework developed by a researcher named Levin back in 1981. He described 5 key roles that pictures can play when they're paired with text.
Okay, so 5 basic categories. What are they?
All right, so we have decorational, representational, organizational, interpretational, and transformational.
Okay, I'm already intrigued. Decorational, that sounds pretty straightforward. Like, it's just there to look pretty.
You got it. Decorational pictures are essentially visual window dressing.
They add a little something.
Yeah, they might make the page more appealing, but they don't have a meaningful connection to the content. Think of like a generic picture of a mountain next to a description of a hiking trail. It might look nice, but it's not actually helping you understand the specifics of the trail itself.
Right. Gotcha. So it's kind of like all style, no substance.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about representational?
So representational pictures are probably what most people think of when they hear the word illustration.
Yeah, like a classic illustration.
Exactly. They directly depict something that's being described in the text. So let's say you're reading a history book about a specific battle, and there's a picture showing that battle.
Mm-hmm.
That's a representational picture. It gives you a visual of what's happening.
Right, I'm picturing it. Okay, so those are pretty common. What about organizational?
Organizational pictures are all about helping you see how the information fits together.
So they're about structure.
Yeah, think of a flow chart or a diagram. Like going back to that hiking trail example, imagine an illustrated map that shows different routes, or a diagram that breaks down the steps in a process.
Oh, like those step-by-step assembly instructions you get with furniture.
Precisely. Those visuals help you see how the different pieces relate to one another.
Yeah, super helpful for things that have a sequence or a very specific structure.
Exactly. Then we have interpretational.
Ooh, okay, tell me more.
So interpretational pictures are there to clarify concepts.
So they make things clearer.
Exactly. They're especially helpful for things that are difficult to grasp or maybe a bit abstract. A classic example is a diagram that compares the human heart to a pump.
To explain how blood circulates.
Exactly. It gives you a concrete visual analogy to understand a more complex idea.
Oh, I see. So they provide a bridge between, like, a concept and a tangible representation.
Yes, they make the abstract more concrete.
Okay, and then last but not least, we have transformational.
Now, this one is especially interesting.
That name, transformational, I'm curious.
So transformational pictures, they actually incorporate memory-enhancing techniques.
So they're specifically designed to help you remember.
Precisely. The goal is to make the information in the text more memorable. It often involves turning something abstract into something more concrete, and then creating an image that links those elements together.
Okay, I definitely need an example.
Sure. Imagine you're trying to remember the name of a person, let's say Mr. Carpenter, who's known for building beautiful furniture.
All right, Mr. Carpenter, the furniture maker.
So a transformational picture might show Mr. Carpenter literally made out of wood or holding a giant hammer.
Oh, I get it. So you're visually linking the name Carpenter with his profession.
Exactly. The image creates a strong connection in your mind, and then later, when you try to recall his name, that image pops up.
Ah, that's clever. So it's like a mnemonic device, but with pictures.
Exactly.
All right, so we've got our 5 types of pictures. Now, the review we're looking at, it mentions some findings about how effective each of these types actually are. What were some of the key takeaways?
Well, the difference in impact is really striking. Purely decorational pictures, the ones that are just there for looks, they showed almost no benefit to learning.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, a pretty picture isn't going to magically make you remember the information.
Exactly. Representational pictures, they offered a little bit of help, but transformational pictures, the ones with those memory techniques built in, those were the real standouts.
They had a bigger impact.
Oh yeah, they showed much more significant positive effects on memory and learning. So the takeaway there is that the type of picture you use, it really, really matters.
Makes sense. So just having any old picture isn't enough.
Right.
Okay, so based on all this, are there some key principles for using pictures effectively, like when you're really trying to learn from text?
Definitely. Levin and his colleagues, back in 1987, they came up with a set of guidelines, which they called the 10 Commandments of Picture Facilitation.
The 10 Commandments. Wow, that sounds serious. Okay, let's hear them.
All right, so commandment number 1. Pictures should be used in a way that supports your overall memory of the information.
So it's about being strategic and intentional.
Exactly. Commandment number 2. Pictures should directly relate to and support the content of the text. No random images. They need to actually connect to what you're reading.
So no cute animal pictures next to a complex scientific explanation.
Probably not the most helpful, no. Commandment number 3. Pictures should not contradict or conflict with the text, because that can just lead to confusion and frustration.
Right, mixed messages are never a good thing.
No, they're not. Commandment number 4. Pictures might not be necessary if the text itself is super engaging and memorable.
Oh, interesting. So if the writing is vivid and exciting enough, you might not need a picture.
Right. Your own imagination might be enough to create a strong visual.
So those awesome descriptive novels might not need too many extra pictures.
Precisely. Okay, commandment number 5, this one's similar. Pictures might not be needed if the text already creates really strong mental images on its own.
So if it's really concrete and descriptive.
Exactly.
Wow.
All right, commandment number 6. It's a reminder that pictures are there to support your understanding, not replace the act of reading. You need basic reading skills to really benefit.
So literacy is still foundational.
Absolutely. Number 7, this one's also about reading skills. The idea is that to create your own helpful mental images as you read, you also need to have a solid foundation in reading.
So reading helps you see the external pictures and create your own internal ones.
Exactly. Okay, commandment number 8, make sure your pictures are clear and well designed. Blurry or confusing visuals are just going to make things harder.
Yeah, quality matters. What's number 9?
Right, so commandment number 9, recognize that different types of visuals serve different purposes. A photograph is different from a chart, a diagram is different from a map, and so on. Each one is going to help you in a unique way.
So you need to choose the right visual for the task at hand. And last but not least, number 10.
Commandment number 10 says to choose your pictures based on the learning goal you have in mind. Are you trying to visualize something, understand how it's organized, clarify a concept, or make something more memorable? Your goal dictates the type of picture that's going to be most helpful.
Oh, that ties back to Levin's different picture functions.
Exactly.
Okay, those 10 commandments are super helpful. I feel like I can already look at visuals with a more critical eye now.
That's great to hear.
Now, the review also mentioned something called the 7C principles from Levin and Mayer. What are those all about?
So the 7C principles, they go a bit deeper into why pictures help us learn.
Okay, so they explain the mechanism.
Exactly. And the C's stand for concentrated, compact, concrete, coherent, comprehensible, correspondent, and codable.
Whoa, that's a lot of C's. Can we break those down?
Of course. So pictures can make text more concentrated, meaning they help you focus your attention.
They draw your eye.
Exactly. They can also make information more compact or concise because you can often convey a lot visually in a small space. Pictures can make abstract ideas more concrete by giving them a visual representation. They can make text more coherent by showing connections between ideas. They can make things more comprehensible by clarifying difficult parts. They can make information more correspondent, meaning they can help you connect new information to what you already know. And they can make things more codable, meaning they can help you create mnemonic devices or other memory strategies.
So pictures can essentially make information easier for your brain to process and remember in all sorts of ways.
Precisely. And Levin and Mayer also pointed out that how well a picture works depends on a few key things.
Okay, so there are other factors at play.
Yeah, so it depends on what you're trying to learn, the nature of the picture itself, how difficult the text is, and your own existing knowledge about the topic. They found that if you're learning something completely new, visuals can be especially helpful.
So a well-chosen picture can really give you a foothold when you're in unfamiliar territory.
Precisely.
Now, there's another perspective we need to discuss. The review mentions a researcher named Peake. What were his main points?
Yeah, so Peake, in his work back in 1993, he listed a bunch of reasons why pictures should help us learn, and a lot of his ideas align with what Levin and Mayer were saying.
Okay, so some common ground.
Right. He talked about how pictures can grab our attention, help us process information more deeply, make things clearer, and support this idea that we learn both visually and verbally. But he also raised some interesting questions about the limitations of using pictures for learning.
Oh, so he had some reservations.
Yeah, he basically wondered if pictures always make a significant difference. Like, in real-world learning, do they always have a major impact?
So he was questioning their universal effectiveness.
Exactly. He pointed out that sometimes people might just look at a picture without really thinking about it deeply.
They're not really engaging.
Right, maybe because they think, oh, this is just a picture, it's easy information, but they're not processing it actively.
Yeah, you could just glance at a diagram and not really try to understand it.
Exactly. And Peake also brought up this idea of visual literacy.
Visual literacy, what's that?
Basically, it's your ability to understand and interpret visual information effectively. He suggested that we should actually be teaching people how to read pictures as part of improving their reading comprehension.
Oh, interesting. So it's not enough to just have pictures. You need to know how to make sense of them.
Precisely. And Peake's main recommendation for getting the most out of pictures, do something with them.
Don't just passively look.
Exactly, like maybe try labeling parts of a diagram or even sketching your own version. The idea is that active engagement with the visuals leads to better understanding.
So be an active learner, even with pictures.
Exactly.
Okay, now the review gets into some specific research findings from the 1990s onward, looking at all those different picture functions we talked about. Let's start with representational pictures. Any key studies there?
Yeah, there were a few notable ones. One study by Adler in 1993 looked at different ways people process representational pictures about water safety.
Okay, so pictures related to a specific topic.
Right. And he found that asking yourself questions about the picture, specifically why or what questions, actually helped people remember the information better.
Oh, so it's about actively interrogating the visual.
Exactly. You're not just looking, you're thinking about what you're seeing.
Makes sense.
Then there's David's research from 1998. He looked at representational pictures and news stories about celebrities.
Okay, so more real-world type visuals.
Right. And he
Yeah.
found something really interesting. People consistently remembered the news better when there was a picture along with the text.
So the picture helps solidify the memory.
It did. And he also found that people remembered concrete news better than abstract news. And pictures seem to be even more helpful with those concrete stories.
So it's like the picture reinforces things that are already pretty clear.
Precisely.
And then there's a study from 2000 by Rubman and Waters. They had kids draw pictures while they were reading a story. I love that idea.
It's a cool study. And they found that the kids who drew pictures remembered the story better.
So the act of creating your own visuals helps with memory.
Exactly. But here's the really cool part. They were also better at spotting inconsistencies or problems in the story.
Like plot holes.
Yeah, exactly. And that suggests that drawing helped them comprehend the story on a deeper level.
It's like the drawing process forced them to really think about what was happening.
Precisely.
Okay, so those are some interesting findings for representational pictures. What about research on organizational pictures?
So there's a really fascinating study from 1998 by Bitrancourt and Bisseret. They looked at how to best display text and organizational pictures on a computer screen.
So thinking about layout and design.
Exactly. They compared 3 different approaches. Having the text and picture side by side, integrating them together somehow, or having the text pop up over the picture as you need it.
Okay, so 3 different presentation styles.
Right. And they found that the pop-up approach was really effective. It helped people learn the information more efficiently than having the text and picture separate.
So having the explanation right there with the visual.
It just makes things easier. And they also found that when the information was integrated in some way, people could recall it faster.
So it helps with retrieval too.
Exactly. And they suggested that it's because when the text and the visual are close together, your brain can link the information more easily.
Less mental effort.
Yeah, it frees up your cognitive resources for the actual learning. And this finding really aligns with a lot of what we know about multimedia learning.
Keep things close together, reduce cognitive load.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready to move on to interpretational pictures. The review said this category received a lot of research attention in the 90s. Why was that?
Well, one big reason is the work of Richard Mayer and his colleagues. They did a lot of influential research in this area, specifically looking at how these types of illustrations can help us understand scientific explanations.
Science is a great area to study this. There are so many complex concepts.
Oh, absolutely. And Mayer actually proposed 4 specific conditions for when these illustrations are most helpful.
Okay, let's hear them.
1, the text needs to explain how something works, like a process or a system. 2, the picture needs to accurately show that process.
So it needs to be a faithful visual representation.
Exactly. 3, you're testing whether people actually understand the concept, not just memorize facts.
So it's about application, not just rote learning.
Precisely. And 4, the learners are new to the topic.
They're starting from scratch.
Right.
Okay, and what did Mayer's studies actually find?
So one of his really key studies with Galini in 1990, they used pictures of scientific devices like bicycle brakes.
Something everyone can relate to.
Exactly. And they compared simple steps pictures showing the sequence of actions to parts and steps pictures. Those really showed how all the components connected and worked together.
Ah, so more detailed and comprehensive visuals.
Exactly. And they found that those parts and steps pictures, which they called explanative illustrations,
So they really explain things.
right, they significantly improved how well students understood the concepts and could even solve problems related to those concepts.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and the effect was even stronger for students who didn't have much prior knowledge.
They really benefited from those richer visuals.
It's like the pictures gave them a mental model, something they could build on.
Fascinating. So those were Mayer's big findings. What other insights did research in this area reveal?
There were quite a few. One study from 1990 by Reed and Beveridge, they had teenagers read science texts that included pictures.
Similar setup to Mayer.
Yeah, and they found that the teenagers spent more time looking at the pictures when the topic was difficult.
Which makes sense. If you're struggling to understand something, you might gravitate towards a visual aid.
Right. And they also noticed that the students who are performing less well overall, they tended to spend more time looking at the pictures.
Hmm. So is that a sign that they were trying harder to understand, or maybe they were just more confused?
It's hard to say for sure based on the study alone, but it's a really interesting observation.
Yeah, it shows how complex this whole thing is.
Absolutely. Another study from 1993 by Writing and Douglas, they looked at how people's learning styles affected their understanding of a car braking system.
Learning styles, like whether someone's a visual learner or an auditory learner.
Exactly. And they specifically focused on imagers versus verbalizers, and they found that imagers, unsurprisingly, did better with pictures,
Makes sense.
and the verbalizers did better with verbal descriptions.
So knowing your preferred learning style can be really helpful.
Absolutely. And then there's Benson's study from 1995. This one's kind of a cautionary tale. He had experts like illustrators and biologists look at text and illustrations in a biology textbook, and he asked them to predict where students might get confused.
So trying to anticipate student misunderstandings.
Exactly, but here's the thing. The experts weren't very good at predicting where the students would struggle.
Oh, that's surprising. You'd think they'd be able to spot those tricky areas.
You would, but it highlights that what seems clear to an expert might not be clear to someone who's just learning the material.
So we can't assume everyone sees things the way we do.
Exactly. There were a few other studies worth mentioning. Belurka, in 1995, found that adding visuals to science texts generally led to better understanding. But Eiding's research in 1997 actually found that adding questions to diagrams didn't necessarily help. In some cases, it even seemed to overload the learners.
So sometimes adding more isn't better.
Right. It's about being thoughtful and deliberate.
Okay, what else?
Oh, and then there's Aller and Shaw's study from 1997. They compared different ways of teaching about pumps, and they found that using animation, like a little simulation, along with text, was the most effective.
More so than just static pictures.
Yes, even more than text with static diagrams. And this finding really aligns with Mayer's research about dynamic visuals being especially powerful.
It's like you're actually seeing the concept in action.
Precisely. And then finally, there's Weidenman's research from 1999. They looked at different ways of presenting these interpretational illustrations on a computer. Like, could students zoom in? Were they static? Did they unfold in steps? And so on.
So playing with the presentation format.
Right, and they found something interesting. Students definitely had preferences for how the visuals were presented,
Yeah, I can imagine.
but those preferences didn't actually predict how well they learned. They concluded that the amount of time you spend actively processing the visual, that might be more important than the specific way it's presented.
So it's about engagement, not just format. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground with interpretational pictures. What about transformational pictures, the ones with the memory techniques? What did recent research reveal about them?
Well, Dresden did some really interesting work in 1993. He looked at using these memory-enhancing illustrations to help adults of different ages remember prose.
So testing those mnemonic pictures across age groups.
Exactly. And he found that they were really helpful for younger and middle-aged adults in terms of remembering factual information.
But not as much for older adults.
Well, he did find that using keywords in the illustrations, that helped people of all ages organize their recall. But for older adults, their verbal abilities seemed to play a role in how well they could use these more complex pictorial aids.
So maybe the memory benefits rely somewhat on your existing verbal skills.
It's a possibility. And then there's Levin and Levin's work from 1990. They actually created a whole system of mnemonic pictures specifically for learning about botany.
Whoa, a whole system. That's ambitious.
It was a huge undertaking, but they found that this system was incredibly powerful. It helped students not just remember facts, but also apply that knowledge to solve problems.
So it went beyond just rote memorization.
Oh, yeah. It helped them think critically and use the information. And the really cool part, this benefit lasted for weeks.
So it had a lasting impact. That's really impressive.
Absolutely. And Atkinson and his colleagues, they continued this line of research.
Part of Levin's group.
Yes, they compared using mnemonic illustrations, just straightforward lists of information, and a combination of both. And they found that the memory boost you get from those mnemonics, it can be more valuable than just having the information organized in a list.
Especially if you need to recall and use that information later on.
Exactly. It's about more than just having the information information in your head. It's about being able to access it and do something with it.
So that initial effort of creating or understanding the mnemonic pays off in the long run.
Precisely. And then lastly, there's Rummel's study from 2001. They used mnemonic illustrations to help people learn about different theories of intelligence.
Like Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences.
Exactly. And they found that the group who used those mnemonic pictures, they outperformed the group who just studied the information on their own. And this difference showed up both in their ability to remember the facts and in how well they could write essays about the theories.
So it helped with both factual recall and higher order thinking.
Exactly.
Okay, that is a lot of compelling evidence for the power of using these different types of illustration.
It really is.
So based on all this research, are there any practical guidelines for educators or really anyone who wants to use illustrations to learn more effectively?
Yeah, the review lays out 10 tenets for teachers, and many of them apply directly to learners too.
Okay, let's hear them.
Number 1, choose pictures that actually match the content. No random or decorative pictures. They need to be directly relevant.
So congruence is key.
Exactly. And they also recommend being cautious about overusing pictures when kids are first learning to read.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
It's about not distracting from the words themselves. The focus in those early stages should be on decoding the text.
So in those very early stages of reading, keep it simple, focus on the text.
Generally, yes. All right, tenet number 2. If the text itself is already really engaging and vivid and creates strong images in your mind, adding pictures might not be that helpful.
So if the writing is doing the heavy lifting, you might not need extra visuals.
Exactly. Number 3, you need basic reading skills to get the full benefit from pictures. However, well-chosen pictures can help you understand things even if you're not a strong reader, especially if you're also listening to the text being read aloud.
So pictures can support learners at different levels.
Precisely. Tenet number 4, think about the purpose of the picture. What are you trying to achieve? Are you visualizing, understanding a process, or remembering something? That should guide your picture choice.
So those first 4 tenets are all about being intentional and purposeful.
Exactly. All right, tenet number 5. This one's about complexity. If you're dealing with a challenging or abstract material, pictures can be super helpful.
Because they make it concrete.
Precisely. Especially those illustrations that explain how things work. Those can act as mental models, especially if you don't have much background knowledge on the topic.
They give you a framework to build on.
Exactly. Okay, tenet number 6. To really benefit from pictures, you need to actively engage with them. Label parts, draw your own version, ask yourself questions. Don't just passively observe.
So be an active participant, not just a spectator.
Exactly. Number 7. This one applies specifically to digital learning. If you're working with text and pictures on a computer, keep them close together. Maybe have the text pop up to explain parts of the picture. It just reduces the cognitive load and makes learning more efficient.
So think about layout and design.
Exactly. Number 8. This one's about learning styles. Some people are more visual learners, others are more verbal. If you know your preferred style, you can tailor your use of visuals accordingly.
Play to your strengths.
Right. Number 9. Just because a picture is in a textbook or online doesn't mean it's well-designed or easy to understand. Sometimes visuals can even be misleading or confusing.
Be a critical consumer of visual information.
Exactly. And finally, tenet number 10. Consider using those memory-enhancing pictures.
The transformational ones.
Yes. Even though they're not that common in typical learning materials, you can even learn to create your own. Research suggests they can really boost your memory and even help you understand things at a deeper level.
But they're not a magic bullet, right?
Right. They don't work in every situation, so it's good to be aware of that.
Okay, those are 10 fantastic guidelines. Super practical, whether you're a teacher, a student, or just someone who wants to learn more effectively.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And you know, the core message here is that pictures can be incredibly powerful tools for learning. And the idea of pictures is always evolving. Now we have things like animations and videos, which are everywhere in online learning environments.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole visual world out there.
But it's important to remember, just because we can include all these fancy graphics doesn't mean we always should.
Right. More isn't always better.
Exactly. Just like with static pictures, we need to use these digital visuals in a thoughtful and strategic way.
And that brings up a really interesting question. The review touches on this at the very end. Will people who grow up immersed in all these digital visuals, will they process information differently than previous generations?
It's a fascinating question to think about. As we encounter more and more visual learning environments, it'll be interesting to see how our brains adapt and how we use those visuals effectively.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on.
Definitely. But no matter how the technology evolves, the fundamental power of pictures to help us learn, it endures. And as our source material concludes, echoing Paul Simon, pictures, we still praise thee after all these years.
Beautifully said. Understanding how to use visuals to